The pandemic has thrown a financial wrench in many New Yorkers' plans. Thanks to unemployment and underemployment, some tenants are facing lease payments and terms that they're unable to honor. But there is a workaround to moving out of your apartment before the lease period ends without necessarily violating the lease agreement. You can sublet your apartment. What is subletting? A sublet, also known as a sublease, is a type of rental arrangement in which a tenant rents out his or her apartment to another individual while still possessing the lease. In this setting, the one who has the name on the original lease is called a sublessor. It is different from having a roommate, seeing that your roommate's name would also be on the lease and you're both bound by the terms outlined in the lease. When subletting, the original tenant's name is still on the lease, which also means he or she is still responsible for the actions of the sublessor. Why do tenants sublet? There could be various reasons why someone would utilize subletting. The most common reason, however, is when someone has to leave the apartment for an extended time. New York City is a city full of immigrants and, when they return to their home country, apartments can stay empty for months. During that period, tenants sublet their apartments as a means to cover their rent instead of paying rent on space while they're away. What does the law say about subletting? Subletting rules differ by state. In most states, subletting is allowed, while in other states, the choice is left to tenants to figure it out for themselves. If subletting is allowed in your state but your lease doesn't allow it, talk to your property manager about the state laws. And, when you decide to sublease, make sure to follow all the requirements outlined in the lease about subcontracting to avoid trouble for yourself. How risky is subletting? To be honest, subletting is risky because the tenant is responsible for the sublessor's actions. If the sublessor does not pay the rent or damages the apartment in any way, the tenant is financially responsible. So, if you have been thinking of subletting your apartment, invest some time in selecting a trusted sublessor. If you absolutely must break your lease but you're not ready to take on the added risk of subletting, talk with your landlord about other options available to you. Pros of subletting. 1. It helps you maintain the lease without incurring any early termination penalties. 2. Another chief advantage of subletting is, of course, financial. No one wants to pay bills at two places. Subletting would allow you to focus your financial attention on your new primary residence while the sublessor picks up financial responsibility at your previous apartment. 3. It gives you more freedom to travel for extended periods without worrying about how you will cover your rent while you're gone. Cons of subletting. 1. Finding someone you trust to sublet is tricky. A sublessor doesn't have the same vested interest in maintaining the apartment in good working order as you do, since you're financially responsible at the end of the leasing term. 2. There's no way of knowing if the sublessor will break the lease. If they decide to leave, you will again bear full responsibility for paying the rent. 3. A bad sublessor can ruin your relationship with the landlord. If the subtenant behaved recklessly, you might lose the property as well and ruin your reputation as a tenant.